The collision between Wendy Williams and Sherri Shepherd did not become explosive because of one interview or one headline. The tension reflects something much deeper inside daytime television: the emotional and professional consequences of replacement. At the center of the conflict is a difficult reality that Hollywood rarely handles well. What happens when a cultural institution disappears while another personality is asked to inherit the space left behind? For more than a decade, Wendy Williams was not simply a talk show host. She became the identity of an entire era of celebrity commentary. Her approach to gossip television changed the industry because she blurred the line between entertainment reporting and personal confrontation. Unlike traditional daytime hosts who relied on polished interviews and carefully managed celebrity relationships, Wendy built her audience through unpredictability. She asked uncomfortable questions, mocked powerful celebrities openly, and transformed scandal into daily television ritual. That style made her enormously influential, but it also made her impossible to separate from the show itself. The Wendy Williams Show was built entirely around her personality, voice, reactions, and emotional instincts. The purple chair became symbolic because viewers associated it directly with Wendy's identity. By the late 2010s, her show represented one of the few places in mainstream television where celebrities could not fully control the narrative surrounding them. At the same time, Sherri Shepherd developed a very different public image. Her rise through television came through persistence rather than dominance. Before becoming nationally recognized, Shepherd worked as a legal secretary while pursuing comedy opportunities on the side. She later built her career through sitcom appearances, stand-up comedy, and eventually her role on The View, where her vulnerability and humor connected strongly with audiences, despite criticism surrounding her political knowledge. Where Wendy's identity was rooted in confrontation, Sherri intentionally cultivated warmth. Over time, she branded herself as approachable, optimistic, and the people's bestie. That distinction became extremely important once the future of the Wendy Williams Show became uncertain. By 2021, Wendy's ongoing health struggles involving Graves' disease and lymphedema forced her into an extended absence from television, creating instability around the future of the show and opening the door for rotating guest hosts to temporarily take over the program. Among those guest hosts, Shepherd quickly emerged as the strongest ratings performer. According to reports from industry executives, she impressed producers because audiences responded positively to her lighter tone and celebrity-friendly energy. In February 2022, production company Debmar-Mercury officially announced that the Wendy Williams Show would end after 14 seasons and that Shepherd would inherit the same time slot with her own program, Sherri. That announcement immediately transformed what could have been a simple network transition into something deeply emotional and symbolic. To many viewers, it appeared as though Wendy was being replaced in real time while still publicly battling serious health and personal struggles. Although Wendy's representative initially released a diplomatic statement acknowledging the business decision, reports soon surfaced claiming that Wendy and members of her inner circle felt blindsided and disrespected by the way the transition unfolded publicly. The emotional fracture became visible only months later during an Instagram live conversation between Wendy Williams and Fat Joe. When asked about Shepherd's upcoming show, Wendy responded bluntly that she would not be watching because she already knew what she's going to be doing, adding that it was not really my thing. The comment immediately went viral because it was interpreted as Wendy publicly rejecting both the replacement show and the broader direction daytime television was moving toward. Sherri Shepherd later addressed the remarks during her own livestream, responding in a tone that many fans found simultaneously sympathetic and dismissive. She suggested Wendy was dealing with significant personal issues and encouraged audiences to pray for her. While some viewers interpreted the comments as compassionate, others believed Shepherd was subtly framing Wendy as unstable or incapable, reinforcing the narrative that her era was over. That perception intensified when Shepherd publicly emphasized that her own show would focus on positivity and kindness rather than confrontation. In interviews, she described Sherri as a celebrity-friendly zone, language that many audiences interpreted as indirect criticism of Wendy's entire career approach. Without explicitly attacking Wendy, Shepherd appeared to position herself as the opposite of the woman whose time slot she inherited. For Wendy's supporters, that shift represented more than programming changes. It felt like a broader industry attempt to erase or sanitize the style of television Wendy helped pioneer. Fans argued that networks and executives benefited from Wendy's controversial format for years, only to distance themselves from it once her health declined and cultural trends shifted toward safer celebrity relationships and less confrontational media coverage. The conflict therefore evolved beyond personal dislike. It became symbolic of a larger transition within entertainment culture itself. Wendy Williams represented an era where celebrity television thrived on conflict, unpredictability, and direct criticism. Sherri Shepherd represented a newer version of daytime television built around positivity, accessibility, and celebrity cooperation. The tension between the two women ultimately reflected the uncomfortable reality of one entertainment era replacing another, while the original architect remained alive to witness the transition in public. As Wendy Williams disappeared from daytime television, the emotional distance between her and Sherri Shepherd became increasingly public. What initially looked like an awkward professional transition slowly evolved into a much more personal and symbolic conflict, shaped by interviews, live-stream comments, media leaks, and the uncomfortable reality that one woman's rise was directly connected to another woman's collapse. One of the most significant turning points came in May 2022, after Wendy publicly stated during an Instagram Live conversation that she would not be watching Shepherd's new show. The remark itself was relatively brief, but it carried emotional weight because it was one of the first times Wendy directly addressed the replacement publicly. Fans immediately interpreted the comment as evidence that she viewed the transition not as a respectful continuation of daytime television, but as the loss of something deeply personal and irreplaceable. Sherri Shepherd's response intensified the conversation rather than calming it. During her own live stream, Shepherd spoke sympathetically about Wendy's condition, encouraging viewers to pray for her and stating that a lot was going on in Wendy's life. Although the tone sounded compassionate on the surface, many fans believed the comments reinforced a narrative that Wendy was no longer mentally or emotionally capable of reclaiming her career. That framing became increasingly controversial because of Wendy's ongoing guardianship situation and public health struggles. By 2023 and 2024, Wendy's absence from television was no longer viewed simply as a career break. It became part of a broader legal and emotional discussion surrounding her autonomy, medical condition, and control over her finances and personal life. Supporters argued that the entertainment industry had quickly moved on from one of its most influential figures, while she was still publicly fighting to regain control over her own identity and future. Meanwhile, Shepherd continued building Sherri into a commercially successful program. Industry reports described the show as the #1 syndicated daytime talk show among Black women between the ages of 25 and 54. Her public image also strengthened significantly during this period. She received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2024 and became increasingly positioned as a stable, positive figure within daytime television at a moment when audiences and networks appeared exhausted by controversy-driven celebrity culture. At the same time, Shepherd made several public comments that audiences interpreted as indirect criticism of Wendy's legacy. In interviews, she emphasized that her program focused on positivity and kindness rather than negativity or celebrity conflict. Without explicitly naming Wendy, the comparison was obvious to longtime viewers because Wendy's show had been built almost entirely around sharp celebrity commentary and confrontation. For Wendy's fan base, these comments felt dismissive toward the very style of television that created the time slot Shepherd inherited. Many argued that networks and celebrities had spent years benefiting from Wendy's influence and ratings dominance, only to later frame her approach as toxic once cultural trends shifted. This is one reason why portions of Wendy's audience never fully embraced Shepherd, despite her commercial success. Behind the scenes, the separation between the two women reportedly became total. Shepherd confirmed publicly that she and Wendy had not spoken since the transition. Former producers from The Wendy Williams Show were also removed from Shepherd's production team as she attempted to establish her own independent identity separate from Wendy's era. According to reports, Shepherd wanted fresh energy behind the scenes, signaling a deliberate effort to avoid constant comparisons between the two programs. The emotional symbolism of the conflict became even stronger because both women remained connected to the exact same physical spaces. Shepherd inherited not only Wendy's time slot, but also the Chelsea Studios location where The Wendy Williams Show had filmed for years. According to insiders quoted in media reports, Wendy reportedly found it emotionally painful even driving near the studio after losing the show, because the building represented such a large part of her identity and career. That symbolism turned the conflict into something larger than ratings or celebrity gossip. The studio itself became associated with replacement, legacy, and erasure. For Wendy, it represented the place where she built an empire before being pushed out during a vulnerable period of her life. For Shepherd, it represented the opportunity to finally become the face of her own major daytime television platform after decades of struggle within the entertainment industry. By 2025, the narrative surrounding both women had hardened into two opposing public perceptions. Shepherd was increasingly portrayed as the stable, network-friendly successor who modernized daytime television with a softer and more positive tone. Wendy, meanwhile, was framed either as a legendary pioneer unfairly discarded by the industry or as a controversial figure whose era had naturally come to an end because of changing audience expectations. The tension between those narratives remained unresolved because both interpretations contained elements of truth. Wendy Williams fundamentally changed celebrity gossip television and created a lane that many others later benefited from. At the same time, the industry clearly moved towards safer, more advertiser-friendly personalities during a period when audiences became more sensitive to public conflict and celebrity humiliation as entertainment. What ultimately makes the conflict between Wendy Williams and Sherri Shepherd so emotionally charged is that it represents more than a dispute between two television personalities. The situation reflects a much larger conversation about legacy, replacement, public vulnerability, and the brutal speed with which the entertainment industry moves on once it senses instability. For Wendy Williams, the end of her daytime television reign became inseparable from her personal decline in the public eye. Earlier eras of celebrity culture often allowed iconic figures to disappear quietly or retire gradually. Wendy experienced the opposite. Her professional collapse unfolded publicly through headlines about health struggles, financial guardianship, rehab stays, and legal disputes over control of her life and career. Because audiences witnessed the decline in real time, many supporters viewed the transition to Sherri not as a natural evolution of television, but as a painful public replacement happening while Wendy herself was still alive and fighting to regain stability. That emotional dynamic, explains why the backlash toward Shepherd never fully disappeared, despite her professional success. For some viewers, she became associated with the idea of taking Wendy's place, even though the network decision was outside her control. In reality, Shepherd accepted an opportunity many entertainers spend decades hoping to receive: ownership of a nationally syndicated daytime talk show. From her perspective, refusing the position would not have changed Wendy's situation or guaranteed the original show's survival. At the same time, the optics surrounding the transition remained difficult. Shepherd inherited Wendy's time slot, studio environment, production infrastructure, and portions of the same audience, while Wendy herself was publicly isolated from the industry she helped shape. That overlap made it nearly impossible for audiences to emotionally separate one woman's success from the other woman's absence. The conflict also exposed how drastically daytime television has changed culturally. Wendy Williams represented a format built on confrontation, unpredictability, and celebrity discomfort. Her show thrived because audiences wanted raw reactions, controversial opinions, and the feeling that anything could happen live on air. By contrast, the current era of daytime television increasingly rewards emotional safety, positivity, and celebrity cooperation. That cultural shift is one reason Shepherd's approach appealed strongly to networks and advertisers. Her style is viewed as stable, non-threatening, and easier to align with modern corporate branding. In many ways, the transition from Wendy to Sherri mirrored a broader transformation across entertainment media itself, where controversy-driven formats became harder to sustain in an environment dominated by social media backlash, public accountability campaigns, and more cautious advertising strategies. Still, Wendy's continued influence remains impossible to erase completely. Even after leaving television, clips from The Wendy Williams Show continue circulating constantly online because her style of commentary fundamentally shaped modern celebrity gossip culture. Many of today's internet commentary personalities, podcast hosts, and viral entertainment pages operate using formats and instincts Wendy popularized years earlier. The difference is that those approaches now largely exist online rather than within traditional syndicated television. Another major factor keeping the story emotionally alive is the unresolved nature of Wendy's future. Reports regarding her mental capacity evaluations, ongoing legal battles, and possible attempts at a media comeback have repeatedly reignited public sympathy and speculation. Every new update surrounding her condition immediately reopens the broader conversation about whether the industry abandoned one of its biggest personalities too quickly. At the same time, Shepherd remains in a difficult position publicly because she cannot fully defend herself without appearing insensitive to Wendy's struggles. Whenever she speaks positively about her own success, portions of Wendy's audience interpret it as disrespectful. Whenever she speaks sympathetically about Wendy, critics accuse her of sounding patronizing or reinforcing narratives about Wendy's instability. That tension has effectively trapped Shepherd in a no-win situation where nearly every public comment becomes scrutinized emotionally. The situation ultimately reveals one of the harshest realities about entertainment culture. Industries built around personality often struggle to handle aging, illness, or vulnerability humanely. Public figures are celebrated while they remain commercially useful, but once instability enters the picture, the machine surrounding them frequently begins reorganizing itself around replacement rather than recovery. Wendy Williams' story has become one of the clearest modern examples of that process unfolding publicly. As of 2026, the relationship between Wendy Williams and Sherri Shepherd remains emotionally unresolved in the eyes of many viewers because it touches on something larger than celebrity gossip. It represents the fear of being replaced publicly, the loneliness that can accompany decline inside fame-driven industries, and the uncomfortable reality that entertainment history often moves forward long before audiences are emotionally ready to let go of the people who originally defined an era.